Boas-vindas! Hoje temos uma convidada muito mais do que especial. Vamos receber aqui para uma entrevista, para uma conversa conosco, a nossa grande referência, a Heide Göettner-Abendroth, que está aqui conosco. Ative a legenda, porque a entrevista daqui por diante nós vamos seguir em inglês. Então, ative a legenda aqui, a gente vai ter legenda em alguns idiomas, mas em português com certeza. Welcome, Heidi. It's such a pleasure to have you here with us. I will make a short presentation just so people can know who you are. Heide Göettner-Abendroth is a philosopher and researcher on culture and society focused on matriarchal studies. She's a mother and a grandmother, earned her PhD in philosophy of science in the University of Munich, where she lectured for 10 years. She was twice nominee for a Nobel Peace Prize in 2005 and 2007, and she has an expressive work with many books on matriarchal societies. She has founded the Academy HAGIA for modern matriarchal studies, and she teaches a course which me and André are just finishing. We are now writing our thesis. Welcome, Heidi. Such a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you, Mara and Andre, for inviting me. It's also a pleasure for me to speak to you and to all the people in Brazil who want to listen. It's beautiful. Thank you.
So to start, Heidi, please introduce a bit about yourself, about your story. How come you started matriarchal studies? A bit of how was your trajectory until now, until the foundation of HAGIA Academy and everything?
Yes, this is a long story. I try to put it in short terms. When I studied philosophy of science, all the history of philosophy with all these huge systems about God and world and everything, I was always thinking, oh, what has this to do with me as a woman? I was a young mother at this time, and I really got frustrated and angry about all this male thinking, which was presented as the truth, but it was not my truth. So I was very bored and dissatisfied with these studies. And by chance, I discovered the works of the scholar Johann Jakob Bachofen. He is a Swiss scholar, and he wrote about Motherite 150 years ago in 1851. So we have, and his work was much discussed later in some 100 years in the German-speaking countries. So we have a tradition with this topic. Also, he did not call it matriarchy. And later, because I like to read mythology, mythology for me has a core of real history, early history. I discovered the work of Robert Graves, Greek mythology, but he doesn't speak about Greek mythology, just about Greek mythology. He clearly showed that before the patriarchal Greek religion developed, there was an older epoch with different, completely different values and divinities, and he openly called it matriarchy. And when I discovered this as a young student, I was so much intrigued by this topic. I couldn't stop to continue with this. And so beside my official study in philosophy of science, I did an unofficial study looking in all the libraries, anthropology, archaeology, sociology, to bits and pieces of this topic. And I found a lot, but it was not labeled like that. People described these patterns and many things, but nobody said it is motherite or matriarchy. This was always avoid this term. So, and After my PhD, I continued with both studies. I was taught teaching at the university, but at the same time, I was writing the first theoretical framework for matriarchal studies. But I did it all alone. I didn't dare to tell anybody about it, because the term matriarchy was so misunderstood and defamed, really defamed. So I continued on my own with my studies. But then, when the second wave feminism started in Europe, I was a member of this and I was a co-founder of this. I experienced that when I was talking about matriarchy, the rooms were full with young students who wanted to hear about that. But when I was teaching about philosophy of science, there were just 8 or 10 students. So I thought, oh, at once I had to decide what do I want to continue with a career in philosophy, which is anyway difficult for a woman anyway, or should I continue with my other study? And I saw it is much more relevant, much more socially relevant. So it came the time when I left university and left all these patriarchal surroundings in Munich and started to create my own academy so that I can research and teach freely modern matriarchal studies. Yeah, and from the very beginning, people came, supported the academy, wanted to learn. So now it's nearly 40 years old, since 40 years, yeah. And all these studies, these many studies, yes, they brought a lot of material to me, but I wanted to learn directly from the indigenous peoples of the world who have still these patterns. So by good luck, I met a colleague who had contact to the Chinese, all-women's Chinese party, and she opened the doors. And so with a group of students of the Academy HAGIA, we went to China and visited the mausoleum. And the mausoleum still have classical matriarchal patterns till recently. I hope they continue now, but it's difficult. And there I did field work for a special time and could check all what I had found out theoretically, and I was very happy because my theoretical thinking was right. It was checked, and these people were so helpful. And so this was my first contact with indigenous peoples from matriarchal societies. Of course, I continued like that, and in the beginning of this millennia, we created 3 world congresses on modern matriarchal studies, where we invited not only white scholars who were dealing with this topic, but were not labeling it, but we invited them, and we invited scholars from indigenous matriarchal societies, and many of them came, and what they had to say about their own societies was very important for all of us, for we were learning from them. And I was very happy that I could bring them in contact among each other so that they could learn that their society is not the only one in the world. And after these congresses, they created their own network to support and empower each other. Yeah. And since then, I continue. And 10 years ago, since these world congresses, this topic and my books went in the world in English. At first, I was writing in German. They went in the world in English. And since then, the topic modern matriarchal studies spread internationally. And I'm very happy about that. This is a story in short. That's enough.